All right, welcome to another episode of NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. I am joined this episode by former Miami Dolphins all-time great offensive lineman Richmond Webb. How's it going?
Good, good. How you doing today?
I am doing well. Anytime I can talk about football, especially with an all-time great, is a great day for me.
It is a good day, and like you said, now we got basketball. Football season's over. We just went through the Super Bowl, so now everybody starts having withdrawal symptoms until free agency or something starts. But we don't have that much longer, but we just got a little dry spell right now.
Well, yeah, and when you talk about dry spell, you have the pre-draft and all that stuff, and when all the coverage is on that because there's no games. I mean, we're looking for coverage, and obviously there's a lot to talk about, but it'll be nice when things actually happen, when the draft happens, or when you actually have all that decided. So my question is for you, what was your pre-draft experience and draft experience like?
It was totally different from what you see today.
Mhm.
That was about 32 years ago, and now it's almost like going to the Oscars or something. Red carpet, this and that, and actually had an opportunity to experience it a few years ago when they had the draft in Nashville. Me and my wife went out and we had an awesome time. Just interacting with different fans of different NFL teams. But they come in, put on a great production, promotion, whatever you want to call it, and we were actually backstage because I actually got to announce the third round pick for the Dolphins, and you walk out there, the fans start screaming and hollering. So, but for me, they didn't have all that. I think back when I played, a few guys went to New York. That's normally where it was always at. Now they moved around to
Mhm.
different cities, which I like that concept. But I was at home with my family, and a lot of guys back then, they didn't want to, like, some guys went to New York, but if it was a question mark or whatever, you would normally stay at home because I can remember certain guys where like ESPN would be with them in a camera, and if you slide in the draft or whatever, and instead of got that camera in your face, that's not a good feeling. But I was at home in Dallas with my parents, my brothers and sisters, and we watched it and waited for that phone call. And you're nervous because you hear the analysts study kind of talking about you, and then they take somebody else, and then they talk about you again where they could use a tackle or something like that. But I can remember New England took Chris Singleton, linebacker out of Arizona. He was the eighth pick. As soon as they picked him, my phone started ringing, and it was Coach Shula. And I could actually, my heart started racing, stopped racing and stuff, and I kind of settled down. But it was great getting that phone call back then. So it was good for me, but it's a totally different thing now.
Well, yeah, and it was a different experience too with not having cell phones and everything. Did you do you have like pictures of that day and everything as well?
It would probably be at my mom's house.
Mhm.
You know, Mom take priority over stuff like that. She say, you one of her kids, stuff like that. So it was not only a good moment for me, but it was a proud moment for my parents to, have that experience with me and stuff like that. So some of my awards and trophies are at my mom's house.
Absolutely. And when you talk about that draft, I mean, you were drafted in the same draft as Emmett Smith and then also another fellow lineman with the Dolphins. Talk about some of those players that you were drafted with in just being a part of that draft.
Yeah, like you said, Emmitt Smith, Cortez Kennedy,
Mhm.
Hall of Fame, Junior Sal, Keith McCants. I mean, Leroy Butler was actually in that class. He played
Mhm.
Green Bay, and we
Hall
played.
of Famer now, right?
We played in the Senior Bowl together. Had the same agent, and um, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer now. So I was definitely happy to see that. So you kind of look back and reflect, and then when you see guys make those type of accomplishments, achievements, and you're in the same draft class, it just makes you feel good. But and also a guy named Keith Sims that got drafted to the Dolphins with me
Mhm.
made my job a whole lot easier. And it just seemed like you would almost swore we grew up in the same household or went to school from first grade on. I mean, we just meshed instantly, and I think that's what made us have so much success early, and we just naturally communicated this and that. So it was a great deal. So Tom Heckert, I think, was over scouting at that time. Coach Shula. So they made two great selections, and it really worked out. Not only for the Miami Dolphins, but we had a lot of success as well as players. So it was a great draft for me.
Absolutely. When you talk about your success, I mean, seven-time Pro Bowler, and what was your experience in the Pro Bowl like back then, as opposed to kind of what you see now from the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, at times it's pretty bad now. I don't watch it. I mean, I think even when we played, at least I'm gonna say we kind of chilled out, but about midway through the third quarter, things kind of got serious, and you really got to see the guys playing. But it's not that way now. It's pretty. I don't watch it now, but I think the thing for me was going out to Hawaii, spending a week with the best players in the NFL, and to experience that as a rookie, and to make friends, and the camaraderie, and then know that even though you're a rookie, it's a lot of guys that have respect for your game and happy to see you achieve this and that. It was a great experience for me. So I always look forward to going out there and fellowshipping with those guys. But it was great.
And that used to be after the Super Bowl, didn't it?
Used to be after the Super Bowl, and
Mhm.
then they moved it before, and that was the thing. It was different then, because a lot of guys would play in the Super Bowl, whether they won or lost, and fly right out to Hawaii and play in the Pro Bowl. So I think we took it a little bit more serious, or we really looked at the honor and really respected. Not sure why the NFL did that, but I guess maybe the season is one game longer now, but
Mhm.
I'm just thinking maybe that had a factor, something to play in it. But I guess once they removed it from Hawaii, maybe that was some of the determining factors or something. But yeah, you had guys playing the Super Bowl and fly out. Next thing you know, they had practice with you. So yeah, it was different then.
And you talked about the season being a game longer. As a player, what would have your thoughts been? To kind of see that push for that extra week. I mean, would have been a little bit tougher, kind of on the body for the year? Or?
There's no question it's tougher on the body. I think the thing now, they did remove a preseason game, which I didn't have an issue with that, but to add another regular season game, most of the time the preseason games, the starters don't play that much anyway. So, um, and it's different now. We had like 6 weeks of two-a-days, padded practices, two-a-days of snap. They don't even do that anymore. So, which is, I guess, a good thing. Trying to keep guys healthy, this and that. But uh, I know they had the negotiations and stuff, but I think 16 games is enough to add another regular season game. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body. So I didn't agree with it, but if you're playing under the current rules or whatever, you got to deal with the hand you dealt sometime.
Absolutely, and obviously, played with the hand you're dealt and did very well. I mean, you were named to the NFL's 1990s All Decade team, and what does that honor mean to you now?
Well, to even make it back then, it means the same thing. Uh, fortunate, blessed to play, 13 years, but to play for a decade and then be considered one of the greats in that era, in that decade, that's an awesome accomplishment. So I think that speaks volumes. A lot of times as linemen, we don't get the recognition, especially offensive line, we don't get the recognition. And sometimes we're kind of forgotten about, but I'm definitely proud of that achievement.
And with that, the big thing now is, we hear difference between right tackle and left tackle. Uh, Walk us through a little bit about, what is the difference between playing right tackle and left tackle?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and both of them are, you got to have skill set, this and that. But I think the reason the left tackle is probably gets a little bit more attention is typically most quarterbacks are right-handed, and if you're on the left side, you typically got the blind side of the quarterback. So you're entrusted with protecting his blind side, because a lot of times he's going to get hit and don't know it's coming. Where with if it's coming from the other side, he normally can see it and sometimes make an adjustment to possibly make it, make that guy miss or something. So I think that's why it's a little bit more weight that most people put on the left tackle position, because most quarterbacks are right-handed, and now that's the money position, and you can't afford to get those guys hurt. So I think that's why so much attention paid to that position.
Did you play a little bit of both, or where did you mostly play?
I played left tackle um, when I was in college. Went to college as defensive lineman, and
Mm.
then they moved me to offensive line. So they moved me to back up left tackle, and then a guy got hurt. I moved to left guard, played there my junior senior year, and then right before my senior year, moved me back out to tackle, and I've been there ever since.
Oh wow, yeah. So really, it's interesting how your college journey, you know, you really took advantage of an opportunity when it came. Then.
Yeah, I had played both ways in high school, and Coach Jackie Sherrill was the head coach at Texas A&M at that time, and um, I was just deep on the depth chart, wasn't really getting much opportunity to play on defense, and he made the determining factor. So hey, we're gonna move him to offense, and wasn't real happy about it at first, because you always, if you're a competitor, you want to try to do that bit. I just made the best out of it, and once you kind of get over the initial shock, I was like, man, I just want to play, and he knew something that I definitely didn't, and it definitely worked out for me making that switch from defense to offense, no question. So um, I'm deeply indebted to Coach Sherrill for making that switch for me.
Absolutely. In your playing days, what would you say kind of was your strength as an offensive lineman?
I think guys are a little bit bigger. I think when I came out, I was about 295. But just real good footwork, athletic, type tackle, quick, could pull, do all the things you could ask him to do. And Coach Shula definitely had us doing a little bit of everything when we first got there. So I think that was probably one of the things that stood out, as far as me, if people looked at my skill set and ability.
Yeah, and you brought up Coach Shula. Um, what was it like being coached by him, and what were some things that you mean stuck out to you from his coaching?
Well, I reflect back now, and I don't think as a young man I had the appreciation for it. I mean, I knew who he was. He was one of those guys I put in the same category with like a Tom Landry, those guys. I grew up in Dallas, Cowboy fan, but knew who Coach Shula was. They always played on Monday Night Football, and I can remember even watching like Marino, Duper Clayton. But when I reflect back at it, he's been a winner in every decade, and to coach that long and to have that type of success and pretty much win a winning season just about every year you coach. Maybe they make it to the Super Bowl every year, but the thing was to make it to the playoffs and get in there and then just see what happened. But to have success over that long of a period of time, and even after he left football, success is being a philanthropist, opening up steakhouses, stuff like that. He just made the transition and continued to have success. So that's when you say legendary. No matter where you placed him at, he was going to be successful. He just one of those type of people.
And when he was coaching, was he the type to kind of yell, or was he just kind of more quiet and you kind of like gave you a look, or like what was he like?
I learned early on, and I remember getting drafted, and I went to, I think, the NBC affiliate station in Dallas, and they piped me in um, for an interview with one of the Miami stations, NBC stations down there. They said, "What do you think of Coach Shula?" And I said, "Oh, he looks pretty cool. Looks like he's got a tan, kind of laid back." And
Mhm.
my offensive line coach was like, "Boy, is he in for a rude awakening when he gets here." And I met him, and he was very demanding, but I knew why so many players had success up under him because he focused on the little things, mental errors, knowing your assignments, penalties, don't do things to beat yourselves, this and that. And so that was instilled early on, and it just continued throughout my career. So um, that's why he had success. He didn't just sweep things up under the rug, and it didn't matter whether you was the lowest guy on the totem pole or the top guy. If you messed up, he was going to get after you, and I think that's why everybody respected him as what he did.
And do you have any assistant coaches that you kind of remember as well that that really stood out?
I would say John Sandusky.
Mm,
That was my offensive line coach um, when I first got there. But I've had Money Clark, uh,
mm.
Dwight Stevenson even coached a year. Paul Boudreau, Larry Bechtel, Rich McGeorge. Trying to make sure Paul Alexander and Cincinnati. I've had some of the best line coaches probably they ever coached the game. So if I'm missing any of them, I definitely apologize. But definitely each one of them helped me continue to have the success that I did. So yeah, I had some great line coaches.
And with that, when you watch a game, now, I mean, are there some things that you kind of watch from some of the current linemen, and maybe there's some that you admire?
I watch a lot of Dolphins, because I live here in Houston, and Liam Eichenberg was the guy we took out of Notre Dame. Struggled a little bit, but he kind of got after people a little bit. So I watch him. Um, Guys that stick out is Teron Smith from the Cowboys. I've watched him.
Mhm,
I like him. Trent Williams from the 49ers.
mhm,
He's pretty good. Probably considered one of the best.
mhm.
Um, Turn Armstead from the Saints. I watched him, and then I got to give a shout out to my man Andrew Whitworth from the Rams. To be 40
Mhm.
years old and still kick back setting, and then to win a ring, but to be 40 years old out there still doing it. When I played, I think Mike Munchak and
Mm.
um, Bruce Matthews played about 20, which it's very few guys that can play at that high of a level. I think Jackie Slater played about 18. Lomas Brown played long. It's just certain guys I got a lot of respect for that. When you can hold it down, that's almost 2 decades. So yeah, most definitely I had to give him a shout out.
Well, yeah, and when you're talking about being a lineman, I mean, you're in every play. I mean, that's a lot of wear and tear on the body, isn't it?
No question. And even talking to I got to meet Bruce and Bruce Matthews and Mike Munchak, you're playing in the Pro Bowl with them, but as they got older, probably from 16, I think they did 16, 17 years. I think they knew them. It's nothing you can show a guy that's been playing that long. So basically, they just kind of preserved them so they would be ready on Sunday, which was a very smart thing, and continued to let them play at a high level, but just didn't wear them out during the week at times. So they got the rest. So always happy to hear stories like that because, and I think Bruce's brother Clay played about 19 to 20 years. So it's just, this is just in the blood of that family. But, that's awesome there.
When you look at kind of today's game, I mean, are coaches kind of just helping take care of the body better, than kind of you guys did kind of back then, or?
Well, I think it's a little easier to take care of the body. Like I said, they don't do 2 days anymore. I think they only have maybe a dozen padded practices so it's more of conditioning, but not so much, hitting or banging. We even after we went through training camp, we would hit, at least twice a week with the pads. Wednesday and Thursday, those were our work days. That was the norm. So I think the NFL is really trying to knowing what they know about concussions and the effects on the brain and stuff now that's been exposed or brought out, they're really trying to limit to where you get the technique, you get the conditioning and stuff, but not so much of the contact and stuff to try to limit, or minimize that to where as many guys don't have issues as they do back when I played or even before me.
Well, yeah, even you think about it now too with the technology of like tracking sleep and all those things like that. What would have you thought kind of if they were trying to do that with you back then?
I don't know if I wanted to wear all that stuff. No,
Right.
I'm like, man, I don't need all that. Y'all leave me alone. Y'all go get that to somebody else. Just let me get a good night's sleep. I don't need all that. Y'all go chart somebody else. But, I think that's how you look at it, when you're younger. But now I look at it, it probably was for the best. It's just whether you want to make that sacrifice to where they can get that data and continue to improve the games and make it safe for not only, for everyone. I think that's the goal they're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. Talk about kind of your playing days. Who are some of the toughest defensive players that you faced?
That's an easy one for me. I played Buffalo twice, sometimes 3 times a year, and Bruce Smith was the guy that I had to really battle, and um, hands down, that was the toughest guy. Played the run, played the pass. He had several, really good pass rush moves, this and that. So it was a challenge from the start of the game to the end, and you could tell that you had been in a battle when you face a guy like that.
So was it kind of like a chess match? I mean, I'm sure you watched film on him, kind of knowing some of his moves, but it's like during the game, just kind of a chess match to kind of figure out where he was going to go. Or
Yeah, it was well, you couldn't control where he'd go because sometimes he would line up over me and then jump down over the center. We always accounted for where he was at, but like you said, just watch film and making sure you knew your assignments, who was blocking him on that play or whatever. But that was the thing that no matter who we played, we always focused on knowing your assignments and stuff like. Because if I fan out or miss a block and this and that, it can be bad for Marino or whatever. You're not trying to do that, so really limited to making mental mistakes and stuff like that.
well, and you brought up Dan Marino. So what was the difference between other quarterbacks and blocking, playing with Dan?
I think the thing with playing with Dan was, probably the best passer to ever to play the game. He was limited in mobility, but for somebody to go through their progressions, find the open receiver, and get the ball out, he really did that quick. And that was another adjustment, that I think Coach Shula recognized. I think that was his part of his greatness. It was, in the '70s, you had Greaser, Bob Greasy, Zonka, Kick, Mercury Morris, and it was more just a physical running game, this and that. You had guys like Larry Little pulling this and that, and then by the end of that, in the early '80s, you draft Dan Marino, and you find out, you got this prolific passer. So anytime a coach can recognize and see what your skill set is and maximize that, and I think that's what he did with Dan Marino, was surround him with Duper Clayton. They got drafted right after that. And of course, you had Nat Moore there, but surround him with guys to where he can maximize his skill set. And, the thing is history. I think both of them got a statue out in front of the stadium. So, the contribution they made to the organization.
Well, and obviously you made a huge contribution to him as well, keeping him safe and all that as well.
I tried. I mean, that was the thing, when I got there. I was like, I mean, I knew who he was, and he was already a legend when me and Keith got there. And for me, the main thing was you don't want to be remembered as, getting this guy hurt or anything like that. So that was motivation enough for me, along with Coach Shula making sure you was going to do what you needed to do.
Now, did you allow him to get sacked? And if so, like, did he kind of give you a look or say anything or?
No, the only thing Dan would say is, at times you're gonna get beat up. If somebody say you play the game and never got beat, that's just somebody lying up.
Right.
Realistic, but I think the thing with Dan, he was such a competitor, and at times, if we struggled in the passing game or whatever, he just say, "Hey, man, if y'all can give me some time, I can rip these guys apart." And that's something like a lot of times we would have to hunker down in, or if he yelled at you during the game, it wasn't personal. It was just he was competing at that time, and after the game was over, you just went back, and once you figured that out, everything was good. But it was just he just wanted to win and do whatever possible it was to try to continue to make the playoffs and try to get to the Super Bowl. So we all understood that, and yeah, so we all had a great relationship.
And I have a friend of mine who's a huge Dolphins fan, always has been, and he wanted to just kind of ask about Marino's quick release. I mean, what made it so quick, and what was different between that and other quarterbacks?
Well, that's what he was known for, and a lot of times we could see it once we watch film, but not so much during the game. And I think it was that, along with being able, like I said before, to go through the progressions, find an open receiver. And I can remember He really ran the 2-minute offense really well, and people would always come and say, "Well, why can't y'all just do that the whole game?" I'm like, you can't do it the whole game because if you keep scoring that quick, your defense will be out there too long. So it's strategy involved in it, and this and that. But when you can put a guy in a situation where you need a field goal or a touchdown and let him run the offense the way that he could and at a high efficiency and get the type of results that he did, you felt pretty comfortable no matter what game you was in, that you could pull it out and win if you had Dan Marino back there at the quarterback.
Absolutely. And were you in on that play, the fake spike?
I was there. Yeah, I was. Funny you bring that up. If you go back and kind of look at that play,
Uh-huh.
you can kind of tell that the line didn't know that he was going to fake it. I mean, if you just go back
Really?
and watch it, I think the only person knew was him and maybe the receivers. And I remember asking him out there, like, why y'all let us know? They said, well, if we would have told y'all, y'all would have messed it up. Like, I was like, man, but yeah, go back and watch it and kind of act like we thought he was going down, and then we see the defensive lineman stop, and then they react, and then you kind of react like, why is he rushing again or something like that? And it is actually kind of funny, but yeah, I was actually part of that, which was a great win to beat the Jets up there. It was big time. So yeah, I was part of that.
And being a part of that huddle, I mean, as a lineman, I mean, did you speak up much, especially as you kind of progress in the league, or was it kind of always, the quarterbacks, huddle to say something?
Yeah, didn't have to speak up much. Dan was the voice in the huddle. He didn't have a bunch of guys, this and that. We need to do this. If we did that, that was on the sideline. We would go over and get with the coach in between drives or whatever and correct whatever we need to do. If they want to change something, we do that. But once we got in the huddle, we knew to be quiet, let Dan call the plays, this and that, and we get ready to play. But yeah, we didn't have to be very vocal.
Well, now, I mean, they talk a lot about, and even I think in the 90s, you talked about, quarterbacks maybe buying gifts for offensive linemen. Did you get any, gifts from Dan in particular, any isotoners or?
We got isotoners. We got some cowboy boots one time.
Really?
I think did we get some little cameras like these the little deals. I think we got that one year. So he
Yeah.
did. He would get his gifts during the holidays. So yeah, I did get a few things from him. But I think the whole team got the isotoner gloves. He had a deal with them, whatever, which were some really nice gloves. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Did you ever give him a hard time kind of in the locker room about that or?
Oh no. We joke around, but nothing like that. Just locker room stuff and this and that. And but like I said, when I played, we had a really good group of guys, this and that, and we all pretty much got along for the most part. But no, I never gave him a hard time about the isotonic gloves.
Are there some teammates that you still kind of really still connect with on a regular basis then or?
Keep in touch with more Dan. Dan works for the Dolphins, so I don't bother him unless I'm down there or whatever. So I'll catch up with him once I get down there. But Mark Higgs, I keep in touch with him. Keith Jackson, um, Tim Bowens, Ed Perry, backup tight end, Keith Sims. So it's a few of them I still keep in touch with. Yeah, man, it's always good to see the guys when you go back for alumni weekend and get to see a lot of my teammates and stuff like that. So yeah.
And was it hard? I mean, as a high level athlete, to then kind of go from that. I mean, obviously you played for the Bengals, and then to transition away from the NFL, or what was that like?
I think the transition was probably harder after retirement because you've done something since I started playing in 7th grade. I mean, it gets a little bit more intense each level you move up. But when you've been doing something so long and then all of a sudden you're not doing it anymore, no off-season workouts, no training camp, but you kind of get an itch. So it took me about, I'd say 3 or 4 years to kind of like, I knew it was over, but it's just still, you kind of get to like, man, no, I'm like being training camp, talking about how hot and humid it is right now with the guys and that. sitting at home. So it took a minute to adjust, but I said it took me about 3 or 4 years. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And as far as kind of what are you doing now that kind of keeps you busy?
Uh, man, my youngest daughter's in college now. She's second generation Aggie. I had one daughter graduate from U of H. My oldest daughter is like cosmetology. She do hair. So um, we almost empty nesters. I started doing a little gardening, doing the pen when COVID hit. This and that, everybody was in
Mm.
the house. So I started doing that, and then I'm on a podcast with two guys, and we normally film on like Wednesdays, but it's inside the NFL with Reason and Ball Game. So we're on Twitter. You can find us on there, and I think he posts on YouTube as well. But just enjoying retirement and being able to move around a little bit more now that my youngest daughter is kind of, you know, in school now, in college or whatever. So that's about it.
Are we going to catch you on TikTok?
My wife got TikTok. I just got an Instagram account. I love TikTok, but I know if I download TikTok on my phone, it'll take up too much time because I'll just keep watching the videos one after another one. So if somebody said
Yeah.
funny or whatever, I'll watch it. But I told my wife, I said I don't want to put that one on there because I know what's gonna happen. So
Yeah, yeah, I hear you on that, and I guess my last question is, speaking of watching, the Dolphins, how far away do you think they are from a Super Bowl?
oh, ooh, um, I think one of the things is I think they need a couple players. I think offensively they got to be more productive. We got to solidify the offensive line. That was the issue. Um, Definitely have our quarterback mature a little bit more. And the key is just staying healthy and getting in a rhythm. I think the way our defense played the last couple of seasons, they play well enough to where we should be pretty competitive with anybody if we can just get it going on offense a little bit to kind of match their level of play. So I do like that we've brought in several former, Dolphin players, NFL players, added them to the staff. I like the direction that they're going, and um, the head coach now is supposed to be like a offensive guru. At least he ran that with the 49ers. So, and we see they were one game away from the Super Bowl. So, and they had a pretty good defense. So it gives you confidence when if you got one part of it area already solidified, it's just one less thing to fix. So if we fix the offense, I think we got a pretty good shot. But right now, I'd probably say Buffalo is the in the division. They probably got the best team, but that's who you got to go through to get there. So that's what I'm looking at.
It is so crazy, kind of thinking back to your playing days. Buffalo was the team as well, right?
No question. They had, and a lot of people don't give them the credit that they deserve because they lost those 4 Super Bowls in a row. But the key is in a row, and I really thought they should have won the first one with
Hmm.
the Giants. The field goal just went, I think it was wide right or whatever. But if they win that one, that could change, everything. But yeah, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, um, James Lofton. I mean, that team was just loaded. And then on defense, you had Bruce, you had Cornelius Bennett, Bryce Pop,
Tally.
Jones, Tally.
Yep.
It's a few more guys that probably deserve to be in the Hall of Fame from that team there that they just don't get the recognition. And it's hard for me to say in the Dolphin bit. I got to give them their respect because they were really good. But I love competing against them. But that was one of the reasons we couldn't get there because they was just a little notch better than we was. This and that.
It was that hard, because you were there then when Dan Marino retired, right? And just kind of not having kind of gotten back to the Super Bowl. I mean, was that hard to kind of see him retire?
It was hard to see him retire, but like you say, he played 18 years. I think the thing that really stuck out with Dan was I remember when we first got there, and he said, I guess was his rookie or second year, he went to the Super Bowl, And, they lost to the 49ers, and he said, the word stuck with me. He said, well, I'll be back next year. And he said, this is my 8th year and I hadn't made it back yet. So it was always make the most of the opportunity that you get, because you're not guaranteed to get back. That's why I was saying earlier, injuries, there's so many things or factors that you can have it, but if everything doesn't work right, it can keep you out of it. So you got to make the most out of those type of opportunities.
Absolutely. And you definitely made the most out of your career. I definitely appreciate you coming on. And I know my friend Steve's going to be excited that I talked to you. And so where can everyone find you again?
Twitter, Richmond Webb, Facebook, Richmond Webb, and actually somebody had Richmond Webb on Instagram. So on Instagram, I think I put the real Richmond Webb is my Instagram handle, but Richmond Webb is basically what I try to use. If I could get TikTok, I'll check that. If not, I'm gonna have to switch it up a little bit. But right now, I'm not gonna mess with TikTok.
Well, let me know. I'll definitely be watching that. So
Well, thanks for having me on the show, man. It was great, and look forward to you posting it so I can retweet about it and all that. But thanks for having me on your podcast. It was great.
thanks again, Richmond.
All right.